Imagine holding a coin that millions of people have touched, a coin that has survived decades, wars, recessions, and everything in between. But what if someone told you that this very coin, the Franklin half-dollar, might secretly be worth a fortune? Maybe thousands, maybe even $1 million? Today, in this deep dive, we're not just looking at a coin. We're unlocking a mystery, a myth, and a truth that collectors don't want you to ignore. Because the Franklin half-dollar you see in this video might be hiding a value far beyond what you think. But here's the twist. Most people have no idea how to identify the rare ones. They don't know which dates matter. They don't know which errors turn a basic silver coin into a jackpot. And they don't know the shocking truth behind the million-dollar rumors. So before you scroll away, listen carefully. Because the real value of the Franklin half-dollar may surprise you. Maybe even shock you. You might be holding something completely unexpected. In today's video, we're going to uncover everything. The million-dollar claims, the hidden history, the meaning of its design, the rare and valuable errors, the complete breakdown of real market value, and finally, the truth behind the million-dollar half-dollar myth. And trust me, by the time we reach the end, you will never look at this coin the same way again. So stay with me till the very last second, because the final value reveal will change everything you thought you knew about this humble silver coin. Let the journey begin. To understand the mystery and the value of the Franklin half-dollar, we must go back in time. Not to the year it was minted, but to the moment the idea for this coin was born. It begins in the early 1940s, a time when America was changing, growing, rebuilding, and reimagining its identity. The U.S. Mint was searching for something new, something symbolic, something that represented intelligence, innovation, and American spirit. And one name kept echoing inside the walls of the Mint in Philadelphia. Benjamin Franklin. A founding father, a scientist, an inventor, a writer, a diplomat, a man who shaped America not through war, but through ideas. The Mint had featured presidents, military leaders, even mythical symbols. But a true intellectual, a man of pure ingenuity, that was something new. It was time for change. Let's talk about the vision of John R. Cinnock. Enter John R. Cinnock, the chief engraver of the United States Mint. Cinnock had studied Franklin for years. He admired his philosophies, his inventions, his humor, and his contribution to the nation's identity. So when he was given the task of designing a new half-dollar, his vision was clear. He wanted a coin that didn't just look beautiful, but a coin that told a story of wisdom, a story of freedom, a story of America itself. His design of Franklin on the obverse was bold. It was different. It was almost rebellious. Because Benjamin Franklin had once said he didn't want his face on coins. He preferred symbolic creatures or nature. But Cinnock believed that the era required something different. And he was determined to immortalize Franklin in silver. Let's know. The Liberty Bell controversy. Now came the reverse design. Most coins had eagles, shields, or patriotic symbols. But Cinnock chose something far more powerful. The Liberty Bell. Why? Because the Liberty Bell is more than a bell. It is the literal voice of American independence. Its crack tells a story. A reminder that freedom is never perfect, never easy, never guaranteed. A reminder that America itself was forged through struggle. But when Cinnock submitted his design, something unexpected happened. People argued, debated, disagreed. Some said the crack in the Liberty Bell looked ugly. Others said it made the coin unique, historically accurate, bold. But there was another controversy boiling under the surface. One that almost stopped the coin from being minted at all. Critics argued, where is the eagle? A half-dollar must have a heraldic eagle by law. And they were right. By law, an eagle must appear on a half-dollar somewhere. So Cinnock added a small eagle to the right side of the bell. Almost hidden, almost tucked away, almost like a quiet reminder of American strength. Yet even then, some people disliked it. Some said it looked awkward. Some said it looked forced. But no matter the criticism, no matter the debates, the design was approved. The Franklin half-dollar finally entered circulation in 1948. And from the moment it hit the public, it became more than a coin. It became a statement. A coin that lived a short, intense life. Here's something most people don't know. The Franklin half-dollar was supposed to stay for decades. Maybe even longer. But fate had other plans. In 1964, following the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the government made a sudden, emotional decision. Retire the Franklin design. And replace it with the Kennedy half-dollar. Just like that, after only 16 years, the Franklin half-dollar vanished from production. It had one of the shortest lifespans of any American half-dollar. And because of that short run, because of the silver content, and because of the controversies surrounding it, the Franklin half-dollar became a favorite among collectors. Some saw beauty, some saw history, some saw patriotism, and some saw money. Because the shorter the minting period, the more limited the supply. And the more limited the supply, the more valuable the rare ones become. And this is where the story of value begins. But before we uncover the rare dates, the powerful errors, the secret varieties worth thousands, we must explore the coin itself, its shape, its lines, its symbols, its hidden clues. Because every detail on the Franklin half-dollar was designed with purpose. Every curve means something. Every shadow tells a story. And some of those details are the key to discovering rare, valuable, life-changing varieties. And that is exactly what we dive into next. When you hold a Franklin half-dollar and really look at it, not casually, not quickly, but with focus, you start to realize that this coin is built with layers of meaning, symbols, tiny details, and hidden secrets that most people never even notice. At first glance, it looks simple, almost too simple. But the closer you look, the more surprising it becomes, because this coin is filled with design elements that can decide whether it's worth just its silver, or whether it's a rare collector's prize. Everything starts with the portrait of Benjamin Franklin. Unlike the heroic, idealized portraits used on many coins, Franklin's face here is honest, real, human. You can see the shape of his cheeks, the calmness in his expression, the mature features that reflect not just a historical figure but a man who lived a remarkable life. Collectors appreciate this realism, but experts examine this portrait with a sharper eye. They look at Franklin's cheek and jaw area very carefully, because this is where important errors can hide. Small die cracks, doubling, or strike-through marks that can increase the value dramatically. Just above the portrait, the word Liberty stretches across the top of the coin. Most people barely look at it, but a collector knows better. A tiny doubling on the L, B, or E could signal a double die variety, something that instantly separates a common coin from a rare one. Even tiny imperfections here can make a big difference to value. Just below, the year tells another part of the story. On an ordinary coin, the year simply shows when it was minted. But on the Franklin half-dollar, the year can be the key to everything. Some years are common, but others combined with a specific mint mark can be incredibly rare. A single digit can turn a regular half-dollar into a valuable treasure, and this is why experts check the numbers, their shape, their spacing, and sometimes even signs of doubling that can add to the coin's value. Near the bottom runs the phrase, "In God we trust." It looks simple, but it can contain doubling, spacing issues, or weak strikes. And any of these can be clues to a valuable minting mistake. That's why collectors always take a long look at these letters before deciding what a coin might be worth. But the most iconic side of the Franklin half-dollar is the reverse, the one that features the Liberty Bell. Bold, unmistakable, and instantly recognizable. At first, you notice the famous crack, designed exactly how it appears on the real bell. But this crack must be perfectly shaped. If it is too deep, too faint, or oddly formed, it might be a minting variation, or it might be an error. And that changes the coin's value. Then, there are the horizontal lines on the bottom of the bell, the feature that decides more value than almost anything else on this coin. These are the bell lines, and when they are completely sharp, clear, and uninterrupted, collectors call the coin full bell lines, or FBL. A normal Franklin half-dollar may be worth a little more than its silver value. But a coin with full bell lines can suddenly jump into the hundreds, and sometimes thousands. This is because these lines are very difficult to strike perfectly. Even a tiny scratch, weak strike, or nick can ruin them. Only a small percentage of coins left the mint with flawless bell lines, so finding one is like discovering a hidden treasure inside an ordinary piece. Beside the bell sits a small eagle, a required symbol by law, even though it looks almost tucked to the side. This eagle may be small, but it hides its own secrets. Sometimes, its feathers show doubling. Sometimes, die cracks run through its wings. Sometimes, polishing lines from the mint's machinery appear around it. Any of these small details can increase a coin's desirability. Above the Liberty Bell, you'll find the mint mark, either a small D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no mark for Philadelphia. It looks tiny, almost unimportant, but it's one of the most crucial elements on the whole coin. One specific date with a D might be common, but the same date from Philadelphia could be rare. And to make it even more suspenseful, some mint marks were punched slightly sideways, some were doubled, some were repunched, and some were filled with grease during minting, making them faint. These little mint mark mysteries can dramatically affect a coin's value. And there's more. The phrase E pluribus unum curves elegantly to the left of the bell. Collectors inspect every letter for doubling, weak impressions, or unusual marks. A tiny error here, one that the average person would never see, could make the coin worth far more than expected. What makes the Franklin half-dollar so fascinating is that the entire value can depend on these design details. The sharpness of the bell lines, the clarity of the letters, the strength of the strike, the condition of the mint mark. Even the purity of Franklin's cheek can change the price by hundreds of dollars. Every part of the design has the potential to reveal an error, a rarity, or a premium quality strike that transforms the coin into something special. This is why collectors love this coin. This is why experts study it. This is why a seemingly ordinary half-dollar can turn into an extraordinary treasure. Imagine the internet. Someone posts a blurry photo and a headline, "This half-dollar is worth $1 million. Instantly people share it, comments explode, and dreams begin. But the truth is rarely a headline. In the Franklin series, 9 times out of 10 the million-dollar story collapses under scrutiny. There are no routinely encountered Franklin half-dollars that sell for $1 million as a matter of course. What does exist is a small number of extreme, authenticated outliers, coins with multiple rare attributes, a genuinely dramatic error, an ultra-rare date in a superb mint state, and impeccable provenance, that might attract collector bids into 6 figures at auction. The million really does belong to a tiny fantasy corner, combinations so rare they are almost mythical. For most collectors and viewers, the practical reality is far more useful. Know the real value bands and the exact errors that move a coin between categories. Start with the baseline. A typical circulated Franklin half-dollar with no eye-catching errors and normal wear is worth essentially its silver content plus a modest collector premium, usually in the range of about $10 to $25 depending on silver price and wear. Many circulated examples sell in that band on online marketplaces and in coin shops. Move up to an uncirculated, mint state, example with good detail but no extraordinary attributes, and you're commonly looking at $40 to $200 depending on strike and grade. Superb mint state coins graded by major services can fetch several $100s, sometimes $400 to $800, if they are aesthetically pleasing and well struck. Now layer in the special attributes collectors hunt for and values climb sharply. True Full Bell Lines, FBL, is the single most powerful value multiplier in this series. A mid-century Franklin with FBL can trade for a few hundred to many thousands of dollars depending on year and grade. For certain years where FBL examples are extremely scarce, values have historically reached 5 figures at auction. Double dies, either on the obverse or reverse, are another major driver. A strong double die showing obvious separation of letters or design elements can command hundreds to several $1,000s depending on strength and demand. Major mint errors, dramatic off-center strikes, planchet problems, clipped planchets, wrong planchet strikes, large die breaks or cuds, and striking foreign material strike-throughs, often sell from a few hundred into the low thousands depending on severity, rarity, and eye appeal. Exceptionally rare combinations, for example, a very scarce low mintage date in top grade that also displays FBL and a significant double die or an extraordinary planchet error, are the only realistic route to 6-figure results, and even then provenance, certification, and collector interest must align. So what exactly should you look for when inspecting a Franklin half-dollar to separate a common coin from something valuable? First, examine the Liberty Bell closely at the bottom. The horizontal lines that wrap the lower bell rim are the FBL indicator. True FBL means the individual horizontal lines are complete and fully separated from one another, not merely visible or faint, but fully formed. Weak strikes, circulation smoothing, and surface damage will destroy FBL, so it's rare. Next, inspect every letter on both sides: Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum, for any sign of doubling. Doubled dies show a clear second image, often with a shadowed or slightly displaced outline of letters or design elements. On the obverse, check Franklin's cheek, hairlines, and the date for subtle or strong doubling. On the reverse, check the bell crack, the bell lines, and the tiny eagle. Strong doubling that's obvious without magnification is worth the most. Faint doubling needs specialist attribution and often less value. Look for mint mark anomalies. Mint marks for Denver D and San Francisco S were hand-punched on hubs or dies in many years and were sometimes repunched, off-center, or otherwise misaligned. Repunched mint marks, RPMs, can be subtle but attractive to specialists and typically increase value modestly unless the RPM is dramatic. Also look for filled mint marks, where the mint mark appears weak because the punch was clogged, or for a mint mark that appears twice or shows evidence of a mistreated die. These varieties are catalogued and can be worth more than a standard specimen. Die cracks, die breaks and cuds are visible raised lines or missing chunks where part of the die broke or chipped. Small, attractive die cracks are collectible and often worth tens or low hundreds of dollars in circulated grades. Large, well-positioned, dramatic chips, cuds, that create unusual design shapes can be worth more. Strike-throughs, where foreign material was between the die and planchet during striking, can create distinctive raised scars or flattened areas and often command strong collector interest, particularly if the pattern is unusual and the coin remains otherwise nice. Off-center strikes are easy to spot and eye-catching. The Franklin half-dollar rarely survives very far off-center in high grade, but when you find an off-center strike with a substantial portion of the design missing, while the remaining design is intact and attractive, values jump. Small off-center errors can be worth a modest premium. Large off-center errors, especially those exceeding 20 to 30% off-center, can sell for several hundred to a few $1,000s depending on year and condition. Planchet errors, clipped planchets, lamination errors, and wrong planchet strikes are another source of value. A clipped planchet has an obvious curved missing section of a coin blank and is generally easy to identify and price. Lamination errors, where the metallic layers separate, are a defect that can be collectible if the eye appeal remains. Wrong planchet strikes, a coin struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or material, are rare and typically very valuable when authenticated. How much does grade matter? Massively. The difference between a low-grade FBL and a high-grade FBL is enormous. A circulated FBL can be valuable, but a pristine, uncirculated FBL graded by a major third-party grading service will command the highest premiums. Market data shows that top grades multiply value several times over, because collectors prize both the variety and the preservation. Certification by NGC, PCGS, or another reputable service is crucial for top prices. Most buyers in the high-end market will prefer slabbed examples with clear attributes and attribution. Provenance and documented history also move prices. A rare error freshly extracted from a lifetime collection with clear ownership history and a consistent story can sell for more than a similar anonymous coin because sellers and buyers feel confidence in authenticity and origin. Auction records matter. When a similar coin has sold for a large sum, comparable examples, if genuinely similar in grade and attributes, often follow suit, but beware of inflated internet claims without corroborated auction data. You've now seen the history, the design, the errors, and the values. But there's still one part that everyone talks about. The part that creates excitement, confusion, and sometimes chaos. The million-dollar talk. Whenever a coin becomes famous, whenever collectors start hunting for it, whenever people hear whispers of rare varieties, a rumor begins to grow slowly, quietly, like smoke. And before anyone can stop it, this smoke becomes a fire. And that fire becomes the viral myth. The Franklin half-dollar is worth $1 million. Now, the question is simple. Where did this idea even come from? Did someone find $1 million Franklin? Did a secret variety appear in an auction? Or is the truth buried under layers of misunderstanding, exaggeration, and internet fantasy? Let's walk through it slowly, because the truth is stunning, surprising, and for many viewers, eye-opening. The first thing you need to understand is this. Coins rarely become million-dollar treasures by accident. When a coin crosses the million-dollar mark, it always has one or more of three qualities. It must be extremely old, or extremely rare, or extremely unique, meaning there is only 1, 2, or 3 known examples. But the Franklin half-dollar? It is not ancient. It is not ultra-rare in normal circulation. And even the valuable errors we talked about, double dies, repunched mint marks, full bell lines, don't reach anywhere near the million-dollar level. So why do people think it can? It starts with misunderstanding. When someone hears that a specific date with full bell lines sold for $30,000 or $50,000, they repeat it incorrectly. The next person hears the rumor and exaggerates it. Oh, this one sold for $50,000? Maybe $100,000. Then someone posts a video with a dramatic title. Then TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook groups explode with captions like, "Check your coins, this one is worth $1 million." This simple half-dollar coin turns someone into a millionaire. And the myth is born. The truth is more grounded, but still exciting. Yes, some Franklin half-dollars have sold for massive prices. Not $1 million. Not $500,000. But in the $20,000 to $60,000 range, which is still life-changing for many people. For example, a 1953 S with perfect full bell lines once sold for more than a brand new car. A 1950 D with extremely sharp strike and flawless surfaces reached a staggering auction price. A 1963 example in MS 67 FBL shocked collectors with how high it climbed. These are real. These are documented. But the world takes real stories and exaggerates them beyond reality. Here's the truth. There is no confirmed Franklin half-dollar that has ever sold for $1 million. Not even $500,000. Not even close. But here's the twist. People don't lie on purpose, they simply misunderstand rarity. For example, someone might see that a graded MS-67 FBL coin is worth $15,000. Then they look at their coin at home and think, I also have a 1958 Franklin. Maybe mine is worth $15,000 too. But their coin is circulated, scratched, worn, dull. No full bell lines. No special variety. No dramatic rarity. This misunderstanding creates two worlds. The fantasy world, where every Franklin is a million-dollar miracle. And the real world, where only a tiny number of coins, the sharpest, cleanest, rarest, carry high value. But here's the most important part. The part you must tell your viewers. Even though the million-dollar rumor is not true, the journey of checking your coins, learning the details, discovering varieties, and possibly finding a rare full bell line example is exciting, rewarding, and completely real. You might not become a millionaire with one Franklin, but you can absolutely find coins worth $200, $500, $1,000, even $10,000 if you strike the right date in the right condition. And that's why collectors never stop searching. Every Franklin half-dollar hides a mystery. Every Franklin half-dollar could be the one rare variety. Every Franklin half-dollar might surprise you. But don't let scams trick you. Don't believe quick-rich claims. Don't let social media fantasies confuse you. The true value of any Franklin half-dollar depends on only three things: its condition, its strike, and its rarity. If your coin has full bell lines, flawless surfaces, and a rare date, you might be holding something truly valuable. Not $1 million, but definitely something worth real money. If your coin is circulated, scratched, dull, or worn, it will still have value because of its silver content and its history. But it won't be a secret fortune. And so the real message behind the million-dollar talk is this. Coins are not lottery tickets, but they are tiny time machines. They are pieces of history you can hold in your hand. And every collector knows. Sometimes the adventure of searching is worth more than any myth. The truth may not be $1 million, but it is still full of surprises, full of hidden treasures, and full of real value that thousands of people overlook every day. As we now move to the final part of your video, everything you've learned so far will come together. the myths, the facts, the values, the errors, the history. And by the end, your viewers will understand the Franklin half-dollar like never before. And now, after exploring every corner of the Franklin half-dollar, its history, its design, its errors, its rare varieties, its real value, and the truth behind the million-dollar myths, we finally reach the end of this incredible journey. But before we close this story, take a moment, look at the coin again, and realize what you're really holding. This isn't just metal. It isn't just silver. It isn't just currency. It is a moment in history, frozen forever in your hands. The Franklin half-dollar represents an era of American pride, innovation, and artistic courage. It represents the genius of Benjamin Franklin, a man whose ideas shaped the world. It represents a time when coins were made with precision, meaning, and purpose, not just for spending, but for symbolizing ideals. And while the world runs after flashy viral trends, quick-rich rumors, and exaggerated values, the truth is much deeper. The real beauty of the Franklin half-dollar isn't found in a million-dollar fantasy, it's found in the small details we explored together. The full bell lines, the delicate strike, the tiny mint mark, the honest portrait, the Liberty Bell's iconic crack, the small eagle that quietly fulfills a legal requirement. These details are not just design elements, they are the heartbeat of this coin. Now you understand why collectors admire it so much. Why they compete for the rarest pieces. Why a perfectly struck example can create excitement in auctions. Why a double die or repunched mint mark can turn a simple coin into a treasure. And why the Franklin half-dollar continues to be one of the most researched and beloved coins in American numismatics. You've also discovered the truth behind those million-dollar talks. Not lies, not scams, but misunderstandings that grew too big, too fast. You now know that while no Franklin half-dollar has ever reached $1 million, some have touched astonishing values. You've seen how condition, rarity, and strike quality change everything. You've learned that a full bell lines coin can be the difference between a common half-dollar and a jaw-dropping auction piece. But the most important thing you've learned today is that every Franklin half-dollar, no matter how common or worn, carries a story. A story of the mint engravers who argued over the design. A story of the Liberty Bell that inspired millions. A story of the final years of silver coinage before America entered a new era. A story of collectors searching through old rolls, junk silver bags, and forgotten drawers hoping to find that one extraordinary piece. A story that continues every time someone picks up this coin and wonders, could mine be the rare one? Maybe your coin is the beautifully struck piece collectors dream about. Maybe it has full bell lines. Maybe it has a rare date or mint mark. Maybe it has an error the world hasn't discovered yet. Or maybe it is simply a well-traveled piece of history that has touched thousands of hands before reaching yours. But whichever one you hold, one thing is certain. You are now part of the Franklin half-dollar's journey. And that is something more valuable than any exaggerated rumor. More meaningful than any unrealistic claim. More powerful than any viral headline. As you close this video, remember this. Coins don't just carry value. They carry stories. They carry lessons. They carry mysteries. And the Franklin half-dollar is one of the most fascinating mysteries of them all. So the next time you open your coin collection, the next time you see a dull silver edge in a box, the next time you hear someone say, "Check your coins, you might have a treasure," don't ignore it. Look closely. Look carefully. Because treasures do exist. Maybe not million-dollar miracles, but real treasures with real history, real beauty, and real value. And maybe, just maybe, the coin you find next will surprise you in a way you never expected. Thank you for joining this journey through the world of the Franklin half-dollar. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more hidden stories from the world of rare coins. Because every coin has a secret, and I'll be here to reveal the next one.